Hey guys, tonight we begin with flickering torches and the kind of silence that hums in your ears. You're standing on the edge of medieval Europe in a world carved from stone and shadow. The air is thick with wood smoke and something vaguely goat-like. Behind you, the modern world fades. In front of you, 1,000 years of history creaks open like a heavy oak door. Step carefully. You might not make it out alive. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You were born a girl in medieval Europe. First of all, congratulations, you're alive, for now. That's already beating the odds. The moment you took your first breath in a soot-darkened cottage or a drafty manor chamber, you entered a world that had already decided your worth. Spoiler alert, it's not much. Your mother, exhausted and possibly not entirely conscious, is the one doing the heavy lifting. There's no anesthesia, no sterilized tools, and certainly no calm music or hospital gowns. Just hot water, prayers, and hopefully a midwife who doesn't reek of ale and fatalism. You're wrapped in linen or whatever rag isn't currently being used to plug a roof leak. If you're lucky, someone murmurs a blessing. If not, well, at least no one dropped you. Now let's be honest, you weren't exactly born into opportunity. You might be the daughter of a noblewoman, your cries echoing through stone halls. Or maybe you're lying in a cradle made from a broken crate, next to a goat that smells like every bad decision in barn history. Either way, you have one thing in common with every other girl born this century. Your life is already mapped out, and it ends with someone else's last name. If you're noble, you're a pawn. If you're a peasant, you're a workhorse. But don't worry, you'll get used to it. Or you won't. Either way, you'll keep going, because that's what girls do in the Middle Ages. Survive, endure, repeat. Your father? He might be there. He might not. His role in your life will be critical, distant, and entirely in charge. Legally, he owns you. Morally, that's more flexible, depending on how many daughters he has and whether he wanted a boy instead. If you are the firstborn and a girl, brace yourself for a lifetime of being the consolation prize. The baptism comes fast, usually within days. Not because your family is particularly pious, but because infant mortality rates are through the roof. The church wants you spiritually covered before you physically check out. You're baptized, named, and just like that, you're part of the system. A tiny swaddled soul in the grand machinery of medieval patriarchy. Your name? Let's say you're Alina. It's simple, strong, and sounds just fancy enough to confuse the peasants, but not enough to intimidate the nobility. Alina, welcome to the 13th century. There's dirt on the floor, smoke in the rafters, and your future is complicated. You don't know this yet, but you're going to learn fast. Every breath you take is regulated by your family, by your village, by your church, and by customs older than the shoes you won't own until you're 16. From the outside, your world looks picturesque, rolling hills, grazing sheep, quaint cottages. But look closer, that cute cottage has no chimney, just a hole in the roof that rain and prayers compete to fill. The sheep are probably cleaner than your neighbors. And that rolling hill? That's where your mother gave birth to your younger sibling because the hearth was full. In this world, being born a girl means being born into a lifelong apprenticeship of silence. Speak when spoken to, obey when commanded, serve without thanks. Your fate isn't tragic exactly, it's just so expected. And yet you breathe, you cry, you learn to crawl, and despite the odds, Alina, you live. The world may be rooting against you, but for now, you've survived your grand entrance into the medieval stage. Soon you'll learn that being born is the easy part. Staying alive, that's where the real drama begins. You're maybe 3 years old now, Alina, and already your tiny hands are not your own. You don't toddle around clutching a wooden toy or chasing chickens for fun. You're handed a chore. Something simple, like fetching kindling or holding still while your mother combs lice out of your hair with a wooden comb that has seen better decades. Childhood, as a concept, doesn't really exist here. You're not a child. You're a future adult who needs to get on with it. No one is documenting your milestones with a carved stone baby book. No one's asking if you're emotionally thriving. You walk, talk, don't die? Perfect. That's 3 gold stars in the Middle Ages. Maybe you'll be rewarded with a pat on the head or the honor of scraping last night's porridge pot. It's not that people hate children, they just don't have the luxury to romanticize them. Life is short, labor is endless, survival is a full-time family affair. Everyone contributes, even you, Alina. So your days begin early. The rooster screams. You rise from your flea-bitten mat, rub your eyes with your dirty knuckles, and get to work. Maybe it's spinning wool, sweeping floors, or following your mother to the fields to gather herbs. Not for some TikTok cottagecore aesthetic, but because you need something to stop Cousin Oswin's rash from spreading into legend. You're not going to school, not unless you're rich, male, and destined for the priesthood. You, Alina, are learning the ropes from the women around you. Grandmother, mother, aunt, older sister. They are your tutors, your syllabus, your career counselors. And the curriculum, home economics with a dash of eternal subservience. You learn to sew not because it's fun, but because you're going to be mending clothes for the rest of your life. You learn to cook because no one else will feed your future husband if you don't. You learn to obey because questioning things gets you nowhere fast, unless nowhere is a convent or a shallow grave. But not everything is bleak. You find small joys, giggling with your sisters while you peel root vegetables, or making shapes with the dough before it's baked into the same rock-hard bread everyone pretends to like. Maybe you sneak out to watch the sheep or dip your feet in the stream. For a moment, you feel light. Then your grandmother sees you. And now you're scrubbing something. Again. As you grow, the lessons shift from survival to submission. You learn not to laugh too loud, not to speak unless spoken to, that your eyes should always look slightly downward, but not so low that people think you're hiding something. And for heaven's sake, don't run. Running is for thieves and boys. The church plays backup singer to this melody of modesty. Stories of Eve, the sinful temptress. Mary, the ideal woman, silent, pure, miraculous, with zero sarcasm or opinions. The moral? If you're not suffering, you're probably doing it wrong. Your body begins to change, and everyone notices before you do. That's when the serious molding begins. You're being shaped into a product, a daughter for trade, a vessel for future heirs. You're no longer just Alina. You're a future wife, future mother, future whisper in someone else's legacy. You're told what to wear, long, layered, and capable of absorbing both sweat and judgment. You're told what to say, how to sit, how to eat. Even your smile has a curfew. And let's talk about the birds and the bees, medieval edition. There's no soft-lit parental talk here. It's more like whispered warnings, vague references to sin, and a whole lot of "you'll understand when you're married." Spoiler, you won't, but no one cares. Your mind is still sharp. You ask questions when you can. Why can't I go with my brother to the mill? Why do I have to serve Uncle Harlan when he smells like boiled onion juice? Why does God seem to like boys more? The answers range from "because I said so" to "that's the way of things." The most honest answer comes from your cousin, whispered during chores. Don't ask, just do. You internalize it, you grow quiet, you become good, or at least you appear to be. And that's what matters. Because here's the truth, Alina. Your life isn't yours. Not yet, but you've got a spark, and the world hasn't snuffed it out. Not yet. So you keep going, you keep watching, you keep learning, and in the still moments between chores, you wonder, just for a second, what life would be like if you'd been born a boy. You never say it out loud, but you think it. And that's enough to keep the fire going, quietly beneath all the layers they wrap around you. You're 10 now, maybe 11. You've outgrown your only tunic twice, and watched it be patched into a rough tunic dress hybrid that could probably serve as a sail if the family ever decides to flee by sea. But no one's fleeing. You're not even leaving the village. Not unless someone marries you off to a man with a horse, and even then, only as far as the horse is willing to travel. The idea of childhood has evaporated like puddles on a hot cobblestone. You're officially in training for the rest of your life, not metaphorically, literally. Your job now? Become useful and invisible at the same time. The chores are no longer cute or pretend. You're scrubbing, spinning, hauling, preparing, preserving. The work doesn't end. It circles back around like the seasons, which are less poetic here, and more like a reminder that mold and frost are your true enemies. What about education? Not for you, Alina. If you were born into a wealthy noble household, there might have been a monk or scribe who taught you to read. Maybe. But even then, only enough to copy Bible verses and not enough to ask dangerous questions like, what if women had rights? No. Most of your learning is hands-on and painfully repetitive. You watch, you imitate, you get corrected, usually with a sharp look, occasionally with a sharper spoon. Your brother, meanwhile, is being taught to reason, argue, count, and prepare for leadership, or at least for not being considered livestock. He gets words. You get wool. He gets logic. You get laundry. And if you're feeling bold enough to say this isn't fair, you get silence in return. The kind that stings. You can recite a dozen psalms by heart, but can't sign your own name. You know how to light a fire from wet wood, how to calm a screaming toddler, how to make bread from practically nothing. But no one calls that intelligence. They just call it women's work, and it is, because if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. Some girls rebel, quietly. You hear about one from the next village who read a page of a monk's book and refused to marry. She's now in a convent with a shaved head and a permanent look of divine disappointment. Another got caught stealing time in the woods alone and was accused of tempting spirits, or worse, thinking too much. You, Alina, play it safe, but inside, something gnaws. Not defiance exactly, just curiosity, a hunger to know if there's more than this narrow path carved for you in dirt and duty. Then comes the whispering, not the gossip kind, the real kind, the one that comes with your first bleed. Your mother sees the stain before you do and says nothing at first, just hands you a cloth and look that says, it begins. You feel the shift, not just in your body, but in how the world looks at you. You're no longer a child, you're potential bride, potential womb, potential risk. The rules tighten, your voice softens, your steps become careful. You are told to walk like a lady, eat like a bird, speak like a prayer. Your father's glances become evaluative, calculating. Your mother watches you like a fragile jug balanced on the edge of a shelf. Your brothers act like nothing's changed, and yet everything has. You are now an investment. Your presence at gatherings is more strategic. You sit beside older women. You're not asked questions, you're observed. They watch how you hold your cup, how you nod when elders speak, how quickly you lower your eyes. These are your grades now, your social transcript. And then, the suitors. They don't look like knights. They look like knees and elbows and too many teeth. They come with their mothers or uncles and make awkward comments about dowries and bread ovens. You don't understand everything they say, but you know enough to feel the dread blossom in your chest. You're not ready. But readiness isn't required, just availability. And so, Alina, you smile the practice smile your mother taught you. You say as little as possible. You wait. Because in this world, being a girl isn't about becoming something. It's about becoming someone else's. You're 13, maybe 14. The exact age isn't important to anyone except the old priest with the marriage records and the guy who keeps chickens behind the chapel. The important thing is this: your body is growing up, so your freedom is shutting down. You've become the household's best-kept secret, hidden from the wrong gaze, dressed in modesty, stitched by fear, and instructed daily in the art of vanishing politely. You no longer go to the market alone. You don't laugh too loud, you don't linger, you don't ask why. You're of age now, which is a pleasant medieval euphemism meaning someone will marry you soon. Not because you're ready, because it's time. And here comes the paperwork. Well, not actual paper, just a lot of muttering between men over jugs of warm ale, occasional arguments about cows, and a final handshake that somehow translates into your entire future being decided. You overhear your name in these conversations, along with things like a strong back, good childbearing hips, and comes from decent stock. No one asks what you think. No one even pretends to. Your marriage will be arranged by your father for your family's benefit, for your husband's gain, for society's peace of mind. You, Alina, are a truce wrapped in linen. And that's the best case scenario, because some girls, especially noble ones, don't even get a delayed sentence. They're married off before their voices deepen. 15-year-old brides. 12, sometimes. A legal minimum that looks more like a dare than a guideline. In royal courts, it's worse. A 15-year-old girl named Lysandra of Elmbrook, for instance, is promised to King Renaud VI of Galarin, a man old enough to be her father and powerful enough that no one cares. Her beauty is praised, her dowry admired, her opinion misplaced and irrelevant. She leaves her home with a few trunks, a trained curtsy, and the prayers of people who never taught her how to survive a court full of ambition and poisoned wine. Lysandra becomes queen before she learns how to rule her own body. And that, somehow, is not even considered tragic. It's just politics. You, Alina, are not Lysandra. You are a peasant girl, and that grants you one small mercy: delay. You'll likely marry in your late teens, not out of kindness, but because you're needed at home to do work no one else wants to do. Still, the time will come. The match will be made, and it will feel less like a celebration, more like a transaction finalized in candlelight and awkward silence. There will be a ceremony, maybe. If you're lucky, a priest will mutter Latin you don't understand. You'll hold hands with a boy you barely know, or an older man whose teeth are more ambitious than his hygiene. You'll say yes, because you have to. The wedding feast will be modest: salted meat, hard bread, watered ale, and one awkward cousin who gets too drunk and accidentally implies you'll be pregnant by week's end. Everyone laughs, except you. You are now a wife, and that means a lot of things, none of which you chose. Your new home is your husband's house, or his parents'. Either way, it's not yours. You carry your things in a cloth bundle that smells like smoke and nervous sweat. You cross the threshold, heart pounding like a rabbit cornered by tradition. And then it begins. You're expected to manage the household, cook the meals, wash the linens, birth the babies, raise the babies, and not complain about any of it. You'll be told this is what women do. You'll be told your mother did it, and her mother, and so on, all the way back to Eve, who really should have asked more questions about that apple. But, you're not asking questions anymore. You're learning to endure. Because being a wife in medieval Europe isn't about partnership, it's about permanence. You are here now, and you are expected to stay. There's no honeymoon. There's no garland of roses, no dramatic departure in a cart with ribbons and cheering children. Just a brief, awkward farewell, a bundle of secondhand linen, and your mother quietly pressing a small charm into your palm before she turns away so you don't see her eyes brim with things she can't say. Your new home is not far, but it feels like another planet. It smells like new sweat and old firewood. The air is different here, thicker, as if it already expects something from you. The man you now call husband, Tomas, is not unkind. But not unkind in medieval terms just means he doesn't beat you on the first day. He speaks little, eats fast, and sleeps loudly. He calls you wife instead of Alina, as if that role now consumes your identity, and in many ways it does. The house isn't really a house. It's a structure with ambition. One room, one roof that leaks near the hearth, and a bed that creaks like a guilty conscience. There are 2 goats in the back. One is pregnant, so are you, probably. Give it a few weeks. The wedding night is not romantic. It is expected, a ritual. You lie still because that's what your mother told you to do. You grip the charm she gave you and try to keep your mind somewhere else, somewhere without the smell of damp straw or the sound of someone else breathing on top of you. By morning, you are a wife in every way. Not because you feel changed, but because the people around you now look at you differently. The other women in the village nod with something like sympathy. The men barely look at you at all, which is a kind of peace. You start learning the rhythm of your new life. It's the same song, just a different tempo. Wake before dawn, stoke the fire, feed the goats, knead the bread, fetch the water, patch the cloak, boil the roots, scrub the baby. Sweep the floor that's made of dirt and absolutely refuses to stay clean. Then repeat, and repeat, and repeat again. You try to carve out little pieces of yourself in the repetition. A few moments by the window. A single berry you eat before anyone sees. The quiet thrill of getting the stew just watching Tomas eat it without complaint. These are victories. Small, silent, and entirely your own. Soon, your body changes. Your breasts ache, your back stiffens. You wake up one morning and the air smells different, and you know, you're pregnant. No one celebrates. It's not a party, it's a confirmation. You are functioning as expected. Your mother-in-law nods and starts knitting tiny wool socks that look more like thumb covers. Tomas grunts something that might be approval. You nod too, but inside you are suddenly deeply afraid. Pregnancy here is a gamble, a test of endurance, a lottery where the prize is either life or death or both. The village midwife visits once every few weeks. She smells like onions and smoke and knows more about childbirth than the local priest knows about scripture. She checks your pulse, your belly, your breath. She does not smile. She just says, "Eat what you can, don't lift the pails." You try to listen, but life does not pause for pregnancy. You still knead, sweep, stir, mend, haul. You still smile when spoken to. You still pray. The months stretch long. Your belly grows round and heavy. Your ankles swell. You get used to sleeping sitting up because lying down feels like drowning. And then, one night, it begins. No one is ever really ready. But it doesn't matter. The contractions start and your body takes over like a storm you can't outwalk. You scream. You try not to, but you do. The pain is everywhere, like your bones are arguing with each other. The midwife arrives. She doesn't speak, just moves quickly. Water, cloth, candle, prayer. You push for what feels like centuries, and then a cry. Then another, twins. One boy, one girl. You are too exhausted to smile, too stunned to cry. You fall asleep before anyone tells you they're healthy. When you wake, they're in your arms. The girl is already frowning like she's seen the future. The boy sneezes. You laugh. It hurts. You name them quietly in your mind before the church can assign something pious and obligatory. Your body is wrecked, torn, trembling, but you are alive. And that, here, is more than most. The days that follow are a blur of feeding, swaddling, sleeping in snatches, and healing slower than you'd like. You still have to cook, clean, and smile. Tomas doesn't say much, but he holds the boy once and says, "Strong grip, it's something." Weeks pass, then months. You forget what silence sounds like. You forget what your name feels like in someone else's mouth. But you don't forget this. You made life. With your own tired hands, stretched body, and half-broken heart. And while no one will ever write songs about you, you have done something miraculous, something brutal, something holy. And tomorrow you'll wake up and do it all again. Because that's what medieval women do. Not just survive, they resurrect. Every day. Months pass, then years. And just like that, you, Alina, are no longer the new wife. They've already begun calling you the steady one, which is a polite way of saying you don't cause problems, you don't drop babies, and you make a mean turnip stew. Your children grow. The boy, Edrin, is already chasing chickens and pretending to be a knight. The girl, Mira, mimics you constantly, tugging at your skirt, copying how you stir the pot, how you scold, how you sigh. They are your shadow and your spark, but they are also your responsibility. And in this world, responsibility means work. You wake before the sun and go to bed long after it sets. Your days blur together in a soft, constant rhythm of tasks: laundry, feeding, gardening, mending, fetching, praying. The fire must be kept burning. The goats must be milked. The bread must rise, even if your own spirit doesn't. Your body no longer surprises you. It creaks. It aches. You bleed when you shouldn't and don't when you should. But you don't complain because there's no time for weakness and no space for it. Tomas notices your fatigue only when dinner is late, and even then, it's the stew's fault, not yours. You've become the axis of the household, the invisible machinery that makes everything turn. And no one thanks the machinery. They just notice when it stops working. And oh, how it never stops. Because if it does, if you fall ill, everything unravels. Who feeds the baby? Who grinds the grain? Who makes sure the goats don't eat the laundry again? Even when you're sick, you're not truly allowed to be. You just do things slower, with more groaning and fewer smiles. Other women help in small ways. A neighbor drops off some onions. Your mother-in-law, who still pretends you can't cook properly, watches Mira while you try to sleep. And for a fleeting moment, you feel held. Then it's back to work. Winter comes. It always does. And it always wins. The cold invades through the cracks in the wall. The wind hisses under the door like an angry ghost. The fire struggles. Your fingers are chapped, your feet are cracked, your children cry more, eat less, sleep tangled together under the one good blanket that smells of old wool and desperation. There are nights you lie awake, arms around your babies, praying that no one gets sick. Because if they do, the only remedy you have is boiled herbs, hope, and your body's ability to keep going. You've lost friends to winter. The girl from 3 houses down, her baby died from the cold. A boy slipped on ice and broke his leg. A fever swept through the village like a thief, taking the old first, then the weak, then whoever had the bad luck to sneeze twice in a row. You light a candle for the dead, then you bake bread for the living, because that's the rhythm. Death, then dough. grief, then soup. There's no funeral leave, there's no emotional sabbatical. You bury the body and scrub the floor on the same day because mud waits for no one. But somehow you get through it. Spring returns. The air smells like damp moss and sheep droppings, but it's warm. The children play again. Tomas seems less grumpy. You even find yourself humming while planting onions. You made it. You outlived another winter, another pregnancy, another delivery, another year. And what's more, so did your children. That's success here. That's what makes you a good wife. Not joy, not ambition, not poetry. Survival. One day, while Mira is combing your hair and doing it terribly, she asks you, "Mama, did you ever want to be something else?" You pause. You consider lying, but instead you say, "Yes, I just didn't know what." She nods. She's 5. She doesn't understand, but she remembers. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to plant something. Not in the ground. In her. Later that night, you step outside. The stars are sharp and scattered. The wind is finally warm. You hold the cloth you've been mending for weeks, and for a moment, you feel a strange, unspoken pride. This life isn't soft, but neither are you. And while the world may never write your name in its history books, you have written it into everything around you, into the stew, the stitching, the stories you whisper at bedtime. You, Alina, are the quiet architect of survival. And no one, not even time, can take that away. There's a rhythm to your life now, Alina, a worn, reliable cadence that pulses through the days. You could almost call it peaceful, if not for the fatigue that has embedded itself in your bones like a second skeleton. Tomas rises, grumbles, leaves. You stir the ashes, stoke the fire, prepare the porridge. The children yawn and stretch and groan awake, their little bodies still warm from shared sleep. You don't smile as much these days, but you hum. That counts. Mira is learning to sew. She pricks her finger often and cries every time. Edrin wants to trap birds but ends up feeding them instead. You scold, but not really. You see something good in him, a softness that hasn't yet been hammered out by expectation. You wonder how long he'll be allowed to keep it. You wonder how long you'll be allowed to stay this steady. Because here's the truth, no one tells young wives, your life may stabilize, but your body doesn't. The pregnancies haven't stopped. Every time you think maybe, just maybe, this one will be the last, another missed moon proves you wrong. The midwife has started looking at you differently, not with judgment, but with worry. Quiet, private, tight-lipped worry. You've had 5 children now. 3 lived. 2 didn't. You buried them yourself, wrapped in linens you stitched during your first pregnancy. Placed in the ground with prayers you whispered so quietly even the saints had to lean in. You don't talk about them. No one does, not because they don't matter, but because they mattered too much. And grief here is like a stain on fabric. Everyone sees it, but no one wants to touch it. The body keeps going, but your spirit frays. Just a little. You find yourself looking out the window more, not for anything, just away. You dream of walking somewhere without reason. Without a bucket, without a child on your hip or a list in your head. You dream of sitting still without guilt. But dreams here are like weeds, easily pulled. Because when your husband returns from the fields one day with a limp and a fever, the world tilts. It's not serious, they say, just a strain, just exhaustion. But you know better. You see the tremble in his hands, the way his eyes lose focus, the way he doesn't finish his stew. And then he stops rising in the morning, and then he stops speaking, and then he stops. Tomas dies in spring, quickly, quietly, in the same bed where your children were born and where you once lay with your fists clenched around a charm and a prayer. You're a widow now. There's no pension, no inheritance, no comforting parade of casseroles and condolences, just questions. Who will tend the land? Who will support the children? Who will take care of you? The answer, of course, is you, because grief doesn't delay the rent. Mourning doesn't feed the goats. And there's no time to feel anything fully when life is still hurtling forward with all the grace of a runaway cart. Your status shifts instantly, from wife to widow, from secured to vulnerable. You can almost hear the village recalculating your worth. Some see you as a burden, others see you as an opportunity. Suitors come. Not many, but enough to sour the air. Men older than your father, men with bad teeth and worse tempers. Men who look at Mira and Edrin like they're extra mouths, not people. You say no. You say it politely at first, then firmly, then with a look sharp enough to cut bread. You will not remarry. You do not say why. But the answer is simple: because you do not want to disappear again, because you do not want another pair of hands taking your home, your children, your name, because you found something strange and shimmering in this sadness: freedom. A widow has no husband, no master, and in some cruel backwards twist of fate, that makes her powerful. It's not easy. You scrape, you trade, you sow for others, you dig up roots and dry herbs and sell tinctures to women too tired to argue about price. You wake earlier, sleep less, cry when no one is watching. But you do it. And slowly, the whispers change. She's managing. She's strong. She's clever. They stop trying to marry you off. They start sending for your remedies. They come to you for advice. They ask what to name their daughters. You, Alina, become a fixture. Not in the background. Not as decoration, as force. The children grow. Mira's stitching is better than yours now. Edrin catches his first rabbit and beams like he's slain a dragon. You laugh. Truly laugh. And for the first time in a long time, you feel not just alive, but present. You light a candle one night, not for Tomas, not for the lost children, not even for yourself, but for the girl you once were. The girl who whispered questions she never dared to say aloud. You hope she sees you now. You hope she knows you found a way, not out, but through. You're still here. The years have stacked themselves like firewood, quiet, purposeful, a little warped with time. You, Alina, are no longer the young wife, the new widow, or the desperate mother. You are something else now, essential. The village doesn't run through you, but it definitely slows down if you're not around. You've become the woman people go to when their bread won't rise, when their child won't sleep, when their goat looks suspiciously cursed. You don't know everything, but you know enough to bluff convincingly. And in this world, that's wisdom. People start calling you Mistress Alina, not because you asked them to, because you've earned it. Mira is taller than you now. She walks like she has somewhere to be, even when she doesn't. She speaks her mind, and people listen, which is mildly terrifying and deeply satisfying. You've raised her well, or maybe you just didn't smother her spark. Either way, she glows. Edrin is steady, loyal. Still a bit too soft for this world, but maybe that's his gift. He tends the garden like it's sacred, speaks to animals like they're coworkers. You wonder if one day he'll leave, maybe for the monastery, maybe for a girl who can cook better than you. Either way, you'll let him go. Because now you understand something that younger you didn't. Love isn't about keeping, it's about witnessing. And you've witnessed so much. Your body shows it. The lines around your eyes are not from age. They're from squinting at threads, at herbs, at children's foreheads checking for fever. Your hands are strong, rough, reliable. You could probably snap a chicken neck without blinking, but also rock a baby to sleep in 10 seconds flat. You are the paradox that every medieval woman becomes, both steel and soil. There's a rhythm now, but it's your rhythm. You choose when to rise, when to work, when to rest. No man commands you. No father owns you. You belong to no one but the day. And the day is good to you. The seasons still change. Winters are still cruel. Springs still tease, but you are no longer afraid of them. You have your stockpile of dried herbs, your roof patched with experience, your pantry quietly boasting of pickles and dried fish. You can survive anything. Other widows come to you, the young ones mostly, eyes wide, shoulders hunched, still trembling from the weight of a world they were never taught how to hold. You teach them, not with sermons, with soup, with silence, with small, steady lessons in how to exist without apology. Some of them stay. You create a kind of unspoken sisterhood, women who live in the cracks of the system and build gardens there. You begin to write things down, just small notes, recipes, observations, tiny sketches. You're not supposed to know how to write, but you learned long ago, secretly, copying psalms when no one was looking. It's nothing fancy, just ink and a borrowed quill, but it feels like magic. You write Mira's name, you write yours, you write the names of the babies who didn't stay. No one sees this notebook. It's your private cathedral. One evening, while shelling beans with 2 other women, you hear a new name, Queen Lysandra. Yes, that Lysandra. The girl who was married off at 15 to King Renova VI. She's still alive. Still queen. And now, strangely, powerful. Turns out the king died suddenly. Hunting accident, or poison, or divine retribution. Depends who's telling the story. But Lysandra, she stayed. She rules. Not directly, of course, but enough. People say she's wise, that she speaks 5 languages, that she rewrote the laws on inheritance so her daughter can rule one day. You say nothing, but something stirs in you. You remember her, in your mind, young and scared, packed off in a fine dress to a cold castle. You'd felt sorry for her, pitied her, even feared for her. Now, you admire her, and maybe in some far-off, ridiculous way, you feel connected. You in your cottage, she in her court. 2 women who outlasted the roles written for them. You don't dream often these days. Sleep comes like a stone, fast, heavy, unmovable. But sometimes as you drift off, you imagine meeting her, not as queen and peasant, just as women, swapping stories over stew, laughing at fate, comparing scars, and maybe, in that dream, she asks you, "How did you do it?" And you say, "One day at a time, one fire at a time, one breath." Because that's what it is. That's what womanhood has always been. A quiet, constant choosing to begin again. Even when the world doesn't notice. Even when it doesn't care. You care. And that has always been enough. The village has changed, slowly like moss creeping across stone. A new family moved in 2 summers ago. He's a cooper, she bakes excellent oatcakes, and their children always have runny noses. The old blacksmith passed away, and his apprentice, barely out of boyhood, now clangs away with nervous pride. There's a new priest too, younger, with a soft voice and opinions that confuse the older men. But through it all, you remain. Alina, the widow who knows things. The one who can ease a cough with just the right tea, or soothe a screaming baby with 2 hands and half a lullaby. The one who still walks with a slight limp from the winter you broke your toe but couldn't afford rest. The one who is, as people whisper, stronger than she looks. They don't say it like it's a compliment, more like a warning. Your children are nearly grown. Mira is 17 now. She's clever, fast-tongued, and has the confidence of a girl who watched her mother do impossible things every single day. She's got offers, of course, suitors from other villages, boys who can plow fields and not say much. She turns them all down, says she's not ready, says she wants to learn more first. No one knows what that means, but you do. She wants time, and you will give it to her. Edrin is 16, tall, strong, still soft. He's taken to woodworking, which surprises no one. His hands are always busy. He carves spoons, stools, charms. Lately, he's been making little figurines of saints and selling them to pilgrims. You've kept one, St. Bridget, tucked near the hearth. You're not sure you believe in saints, but you believe in him. The house feels less crowded, yet more alive. There's music now. Edrin learned a stringed instrument from a passing traveler and practices in the evenings. Mira sings sometimes, just softly enough to not make it a thing. You let them be. They deserve to exist without purpose for a little while. You still work, of course. You'll never stop. But the urgency has changed. The desperation that once clung to every task is gone, replaced by something steadier. You work because you choose to, because your hands don't know how to be still, because the world in all its cruel absurdity still needs feeding and mending. And strangely, it's become more forgiving. You barter more than you buy. You trade stories as often as goods. You've built something here, not just a home, but a reputation. People trust you, not just as a healer or a widow, as Alina. It's a strange kind of fame. No songs, no scrolls. But when someone in the village is in trouble, they come to your door, and you open it. One morning, there's a knock. You expect a neighbor with a sick child or a chicken crisis. Instead, it's a girl you've never seen. 14, maybe. Thin, tired, eyes like flint. She doesn't say much, just that her family sent her away, that she has nowhere to go. You make her tea. You say nothing. You wait. Later that night, she finally whispers, "They said you help women." You nod. You don't ask for details. You don't need them. You let her sleep by the fire. The next day, she helps knead dough. The day after, she mends a ripped tunic. By the end of the week, she smiles. You don't ask if she'll stay. You just set an extra bowl at supper. This becomes a pattern. Quiet girls, bruised women, tired mothers. They find you, one at a time. You don't advertise. You don't turn them away. You don't save them. You give them space, a place to breathe, to stitch their own broken seams. Some leave after a few weeks. Some stay for months. One, a woman named Bruna, has been here for over a year. She's excellent with herbs and terrible at baking. You don't mind. She laughs like thunder and calls you old girl, which makes Mira roll her eyes but secretly delights you. What you've created isn't quite a convent, not a commune either. It's just a home. But it's more than that. It's proof. proof that women, when left alone, don't fall apart. They rise, together. Sometimes you catch yourself standing in the doorway, watching them all, Mira spinning wool, Bruna trimming herbs, the younger girls giggling over some secret. You feel like a ghost haunting your own legacy, but a happy ghost. And once in a while, when you light a candle at dusk, you whisper to yourself, "We made it." Not perfectly, not without pain, but wholly. You still cry sometimes, usually alone. Quiet tears like rain on thatch, not out of sadness, out of awe. Because you remember the girl you were, the girl who whispered questions into the dark, and now you live in a place where girls can speak their questions aloud. That is no small thing. You're not finished, but for the first time, you don't feel like you're merely surviving. You feel like you're building something. Not with stone, not with gold, with women, with time, with care. It's autumn again. The leaves outside your cottage blaze like fire, orange, red, yellow, before crumbling into earth. The wind carries a chill now, not quite winter, but a whisper of it. It slips through the thatch, teases the edges of your shawl, brushes against your bones like an old friend reminding you, we've done this before. You tighten your scarf, sip your tea, and return to mending the hem of a too-worn tunic that someone left by the hearth. Probably Bruna. She insists she's not a stitcher and proves it daily. Life here is quiet, but not dull. The cottage, once a two-room refuge, has grown, slowly, organically. The loft holds dried herbs and Mira's ever-expanding collection of odd rocks. Edrin has built shelves and stools, and most recently a bench long enough to seat 5 women and 1 very persistent goat. You never planned any of this, but it's grown around you like ivy, stubborn, beautiful, sometimes in the way, but alive. And that's what matters. Today, Mira is in the market. She walks with purpose now, and vendors call her Mistress Mira like she's always been in charge. She returns with news. The queen is passing through, she says, half grinning. Lysandra, the one who rewrote the laws. You blink. It's been years since you heard that name spoken with such familiarity. Not Queen Lysandra of Gallarine, just Lysandra, as if she were your neighbor. She's visiting the abbey up north, Mira continues, pouring water into a pot with the grace of someone who no longer sees chores as punishment. They say she might stop in the village for rest or curiosity. You nod, trying not to look amused or curious, or both. That night, you think about her, the girl queen, the one married too young, widowed too soon, and somehow still standing. You've followed her story in bits and whispers. Treaties signed, lands reclaimed, laws softened. Some say she writes letters to other queens. Some say she walks among her people in plain clothes. You don't know what's true, but you hope quietly that the part about walking is. A week later, she arrives, no fanfare, just a small entourage, a few guards, a worn carriage, and a woman in a blue cloak who looks around like she remembers everything and forgets nothing. Lysandra. You recognize her not from portraits or coins, but from her posture. Straight, unapologetic, like someone who has been underestimated and no longer finds it surprising. She stays at the Reeves house. The village children crowd near the gates. Some women gossip, some swoon. You keep your distance until she comes to you, not alone, but close to it. She walks up your garden path with only one guard trailing, discreetly pretending to examine. You wipe your hands, step out from the doorway. She stops a few feet away. You're Alina, she says. It's not a question. You nod, and you're late for supper. It's a joke, but she smiles. I heard about your home, she says, the women here, the work you do. You shrug. I feed people, let them sleep, teach them to boil things without setting fire to the roof. She laughs, a real one. I'd like to talk, she says, so you do. You walk, just the two of you, through the edge of the woods where the trees still hold leaves like secrets. You talk about mothers, about midwives, about marriage and mourning, and why no one ever teaches girls how to rest. She tells you things you won't repeat. You tell her things you didn't know you remembered. You return hours later. Mira pretends not to be watching from the doorway. Lysandra squeezes your hand before leaving. I think we were the same girl once, she says. You watch her carriage vanish down the road, like a dream you almost forgot to write down. That night, you light 2 candles. One for yourself, one for her. You don't pray, you just sit. In silence, in gratitude, in the glow of a life you never asked for but somehow made into something worth living. You think of all the women who came before you. Your mother, her mother, the ones whose names you never learned. You hope they'd be proud, or at least impressed you didn't burn the house down. The next morning, Mira finds your old notebook, the one with the herbal sketches, the stitched margins, the names. She asks, "Can I copy this?" You nod. And just like that, your story begins again, in ink, in hands that aren't yours, in a future you helped shape even when the world told you not to bother. You're still here. And your story finally is no longer a whisper. It's nearly winter now, and you feel it before the wind even changes. Your bones predict it like old sailors predicting storms. There's a sharpness in the air, a thinness to the light, as if the sun's gotten stingy and the night's grown greedy. The garden's done for the year. You and Mira spent the last few weeks pulling up the last carrots and onions, drying herbs, hanging everything from ceiling beams like you're preparing for war. Which, in a way, you are. Winter is always a siege. But you're ready. More ready than ever. The pantry is full. The firewood stacked high. Bruna has even managed to fix the door that always creaks. After 3 tries and a lot of swearing, you laughed so hard you almost dropped a pot. Even Edrin, who's taken to carving spoons with little floral patterns now, says this might be your best preparation yet. And coming from him, that's praise bordering on poetry. The house is loud with women again. A new arrival came last week, Renilde, a woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and sharper elbows. She doesn't say much, but she mends clothes like she's performing surgery and watches everything. You recognize her type. She'll stay longer than she plans. One morning, Mira notices you rubbing your wrist. "You've been limping more," she says, not unkindly. You wave it off like you always do. "Just the cold." But it's not just the cold. You know that. The stiffness doesn't go away with fire or tea. Your grip slips more often now. Some days you forget words you know well. Not in a frightening way, just in a, "where did I put that damn memory" way. Aging isn't a curse here. It's a quiet victory. Few get to do it. Your friends have changed. Some are gone, some moved, some became something else entirely. But the house remains, and so do you. The days grow shorter. The fire burns longer. The women begin to knit and stitch and talk in those low, rhythmic voices that only emerge in winter. The kind of talk where secrets are told like recipes, passed down without eye contact, folded into laughter and sighs. You don't lead the house with speeches or orders. You lead it like a shepherd leads sheep, by walking ahead, by being seen, by knowing when to stop and let others catch up. Some nights, Mira reads from your notebook aloud. Not every night. Just the ones where the snow presses too hard and the shadows stretch too long. She reads your entries like they're sacred texts. She learned how to make broth with only nettles and 2 dried beans, she reads once, smirking. It didn't taste like much, but it filled the belly and tricked the mind. That counts. Bruna adds, "That was the winter everyone got scurvy, except you." Renilde, quiet in the corner, mumbles, "She probably bribed the plague away with onion jam." You all laugh, but you all remember, because that's what this house is now. Not just a shelter, not just a place for strays, it's a memory, living, breathing, passing itself along in stories and soups and threadbare quilts. You sit by the fire, a blanket over your legs, and let yourself rest, really rest. No guilt, no ticking clock in your chest, just warmth, breath, and the soft, rising murmur of women remembering who they are. Mira brushes your hair. It's silver now, coarser than before. She braids it the way you used to braid hers. Neither of you say it, but you both know you're passing something on. Not just knowledge, not just a house, a way. That night, while the fire sleeps low, you step outside, just for a moment. The stars are brutal and beautiful, so many, so cold. You remember standing here years ago, your arms around 2 small children, begging the sky for mercy. Now, you just nod at it, as if to say, "I'm still here." You look back at the house, light flickering in the windows, laughter leaking through the cracks, the smell of something warm and good inside. And for the first time in a long time, you think, this was enough. More than enough. Tomorrow, you'll show Renilde how to dry nettles properly. Tomorrow, Mira will finish copying your notes into her own journal. Tomorrow, Edrin will return from the woods with too much kindling and a new splinter. Tomorrow will come, and you'll meet it. Not as a girl, not as a wife, not even as a mother, as Alina, the woman who built something the world said she wasn't allowed to. It's snowing now, the kind of snow that muffles everything, turns the world into a whisper. The children in the village, what few there are, scream and chase each other with clumps of it. their laughter bouncing off stone walls and bare trees. Inside, your house hums with another kind of life: warmth, routine, stories. You've lived through so many winters, they no longer intimidate you. They greet you like an old rival. Here again, eh? Let's see how you manage this time. And you always do. The hearth burns steady. Edrin repaired the back wall before the first frost, so no more drafts. Mira fixed the door hinge again. It creaks less now, though it still groans when the wind is strong, like the house itself is sighing. There are 6 women in the house, not including you, each one with a different past, a different scar, a different reason for staying. Bruna's still the loudest, now self-appointed guardian of the pantry. Renilda's quiet but indispensable. She's begun teaching the younger ones how to sew, though she grumbles about it the entire time. You, Alina, spend your mornings sitting near the fire, sorting herbs with slow fingers, listening. You listen more now than you speak, not because you have nothing to say, but because you know that silence is often what makes people speak their truth. That's one of the things no one taught you as a girl. But time did. And time has taught you well. There's a girl, Elspeth, just 14, who arrived not long ago. She doesn't say why she came. No one asks. But every night she curls up near your chair, watching you with wide, restless eyes. You let her. Last night she asked, "Weren't you ever scared?" You thought about lying, but instead you said yes, all the time. She looked surprised, as if fear was something only the powerless feel. "But I didn't stop," you added. "That's the trick." This morning, she brought you tea before you asked. Progress. Out the window, you watch snow pile onto the fence posts. A bird hops along the edge of the roof, fluffs its feathers, and dives off into the gray air. There's a kind of calm that only comes after decades of noise. You breathe it in. Your notebook now has a twin, Mira's version. She writes every night by candlelight in that same small, neat script you taught her. Sometimes she adds drawings, sometimes she copies your old words. Sometimes she just writes thoughts of her own. Once, you peeked. She wrote, "Mama built this house with nothing but grief, herbs, and audacity." You laughed until you cried. And then you didn't stop crying. There's something strange about living long enough to see your legacy while you're still alive. Not carved in stone, not sung by minstrels, but in the way Bruna teaches others how to ferment cabbage, in how Mira carries herself through the market, in how Elsbeth now braids her own hair. One night while the women gather to peel turnips and complain about socks, someone asks, "Do you think anyone will remember us?" You don't answer right away. Then you say, "If they remember the way the bread tasted, the way the floor never creaked in the cold, the way someone always had a story to tell or a remedy for your cough, then yes, they will." You're not trying to be profound, but the room goes quiet. Then someone burps, and everything returns to normal. That's the beauty of it all. Legacy isn't loud. It's what happens quietly, every day, in the spaces no one thinks to record. You used to think your life would vanish like steam from soup. Now, you're not so sure, because your hands are still here. Your stories are still here. Your people are still here. That night, Edrin sits beside you with a wooden box he's carved. Inside, a new spoon, another charm, a figurine, and at the bottom, wrapped in cloth, something unexpected. A small wooden plaque. Etched into it, the words, "This house remembers." You don't cry, not right away. You just hold the plaque and nod. Later, in the dark, you finally let yourself feel it, the full weight of being seen, not as a wife or a mother or a healer, just as yourself. Alina, the girl who kept going, the woman who made space for others to breathe, the house that now holds not just bodies, but history. And in the hush of midnight, with snow still falling and dreams waiting at the edge of sleep, you whisper, "We're still here." And you know, without a doubt, you always will be. The snow has settled now, thick and soft and unforgiving. The world outside is quiet in the way that makes you listen to your own heartbeat. Every footstep crunches like a confession. Every errand becomes a test of will. Inside your home, though, it's different. It's alive. There's stew simmering, wool drying above the fire. Elsbeth is trying to teach Bruna's goat to sit. Bruna is yelling about how goats don't sit. Mira is curled in the corner, reading something aloud to Edrin, who pretends not to listen but hasn't moved in 10 minutes. And you, Alina, are watching, listening, remembering. This wasn't the plan. There was never a plan. You were married off young, widowed early, and shoved into survival like a boot into frozen mud. And yet, here you are, 60-something, wrinkled, limping, but whole. Somehow. No one warned you that aging could feel like unraveling and knitting yourself again in the same breath. You've started forgetting small things, the names of herbs, the order of steps in a recipe, why you walked into a room. But you remember the big things, the grief, the love, the tiny joys that shimmered even in the worst winters. You sit by the fire now more than you stand. Your knees don't like stairs, your fingers ache in the cold. Mira tells you to rest more. You tell her that death is rest enough and you've got bread to knead. She rolls her eyes, but gently. One night, she brings out your notebook. She places it in your lap and says, "Will you read it to us?" You hesitate. You haven't read those pages aloud, not even to yourself. They're your life, pressed between ink and memory. But you nod, because stories, once written, are meant to be shared. The women gather around, you open to the first page, and you begin. You read about your first winter as a wife, about Tomas and how he once tried to fix a roof with a rake and broke both, about the births, the losses, the fear, the fury, about Mira's first word, not printable, and Edrin's early habit of collecting rocks like they were treasure. You read through tears and laughter and long pauses, and when you finish, no one claps. They just sit in silence, each woman staring into the fire, the way people do when they realize they've just seen a part of themselves in someone else's story. Later that night, Mira kisses your forehead. "Thank you," she whispers, and you realize this house is more than shelter now. It's a library of lives. One evening, a knock comes at the door. A stranger, young, pale, out of breath. She's carrying nothing but a bundle of cloth and a broken sandal. She doesn't speak, just looks at you with eyes that say everything. You step aside, she enters, no questions asked. Later, when she's fed and warm, she says, "They told me to find Alina." You smile. "You did." She starts crying her blanket. "This is how it works now. The world is hard. You are soft, and that softness is the strongest thing you have. Your home has become a secret passed from woman to woman like a sacred thread, somewhere they can rest, heal, stitch themselves back together. It's not a convent, not a sanctuary, just a home, yours. But somehow that's enough." The next day, Mira tells you she's writing a book. A real one, she says, eyes bright, with your story and Bruna's and Elsbeth's, all of it. You nod. You don't ask if she'll finish. You know she will. And because she was raised in a house that believes women's stories matter. You built that. One day you fall asleep by the fire. It's just a nap. But when you wake, everyone's speaking quietly. Elsbeth brings you water. Mira adjusts your shawl. Bruna curses at the wind for being too loud. You realize something strange. They're taking care of you. Not out of obligation, not pity, out of love. You're still the center. But now, the circle holds you too. That night, Edrin shows you a carving he's made. It's you, bent over herbs, a shawl over your shoulders, a smile hidden behind focus. It's not beautiful, it's perfect. You place it above the hearth, a small shrine to a quiet miracle. You, still here, still giving, still held. It's nearly spring again. You feel it before you see it. Something in the wind, in the way the ground sighs when you walk on it. The snow hasn't quite given up, but it's losing its grip. There's mud now. And birds. And a kind of hope that's hard to explain. You've seen more than 50 springs, maybe 60. You stop counting, but you never stop noticing. Outside, Mira is arguing with Bruna about when to plant onions. Elsbeth is weaving baskets again and humming something tuneless and wild. Edrin is carving by the stream and in no rush, which means he's thinking about something. You sit by the window and watch them. You used to be in the center of everything. The fire starter, the water hauler, the one who made it all work. Now you're still in the middle, but the motion flows around you, not from you, and that's okay. You become a kind of anchor, not heavy, just steady. One evening, Mira brings in a letter. It's sealed with wax and smells faintly of expensive things. Rose, lavender, the sort of scent that travels in pouches, not pockets. You raise an eyebrow. "We expecting nobility?" She grins. "It's from the Queen." You blink. "Lysandra?" "She remembers you," Mira says. "Wants to know if she can visit again." You laugh. You laugh so hard you nearly drop your tea. When Lysandra arrives, she's alone. No entourage, no gold thread, just a good cloak and bad shoes. She hugs you like a sister. You hug her like someone who stopped pretending people don't matter. She stays for 3 days. You don't speak of crowns or courts. You talk about bread, about the best way to keep mice out of grain, about the ridiculous shape of turnips. You laugh until you cry, and cry until you laugh again. She sleeps on a mat near the fire, snores like a millstone, and insists on doing dishes. Elspeth watches her like she's a legend. Bruna teaches her how to gut a fish. Mira quizzes her on inheritance law, just for fun. On the last night, Lysandra says, "You know, I could name you something. Lady of something. Official. Grand." You shake your head. "No title you give me will mean more than what I already have." She nods. And you both understand, because some power isn't taken or granted, it's lived. The next morning, she leaves a small velvet pouch on the windowsill. Inside, a brooch, a letter, and enough coin to rebuild the roof, the barn, and probably most of the village well. You keep the letter. You give the rest away, because the house is still your house, and your power is not in gold. It's in the way the rooms remember every footstep, the way the herbs dry exactly where they always have, the way people lower their voices when you speak, not out of fear, but reverence. One night, you sit Mira down. "I want you to take the notebook," you say. She looks startled. "Why?" "Because I don't want the story to stop when I do." She doesn't argue. She's smart like that. She takes it gently, like it might break. You know it won't. It's survived soup stains, rainstorms, childbirth, heartbreak. It'll survive her too. You sleep better that night. Your dreams are simple. A warm room, laughter, a child's footsteps, the smell of bread. You wake to birdsong. Mira is already up, kneading dough. Bruna is cursing at the goat. Elsbeth is hanging wet linens in crooked rows. Edrin whistles something that might be music. And you sit and smile. Because the house works, even without your hands in everything. Because the story continues, even when you fall silent. And because somewhere out there, another girl might be lighting a fire, wondering if anyone like her has ever made it through. She has. You did. You are. Still here. Still holding. Still home. Spring opens its hands and the earth answers. The mud dries. The flowers return. The air smells like wet grass and new beginnings. In another life, this might be the season for travel, for setting out, for changing your name and pretending to be someone new. But here for you, Alina, spring is a kind of remembering. You walk a little each morning, not far, just enough to feel your feet beneath you. The path to the stream is still manageable, though Mira insists on escorting you like you're made of eggshells. You let her, because you know the weight of worrying for someone. And because it's easier than arguing. You still sort herbs, you still mend the occasional sock, you still make the best lentil stew in the house, even if Bruna claims hers has depth. It doesn't. But mostly now, you teach. You sit on the bench near the window, your spot, and the younger women come to you, not always with questions, but always with something. A failed recipe, a heartbreak, a strange rash, a child who won't sleep, a silence that won't lift. And you listen. Sometimes you offer advice, sometimes a salve, sometimes just a nod, because not everything needs fixing. Some things just need witnessing. Mira has taken over more of the daily work, not because you've asked, but because she sees things before they're spoken. Edrin built a little shed for her herbs. She's become the village's unofficial healer and the official person to scold if someone tries to use moldy onions. You're proud, not in a loud way, but in that deep, bone-rooted way that feels like being full after a good meal. One morning, a cart arrives. A woman steps down, older, worn, her hair streaked with gray. She walks like someone who used to run. Her name is Ildra. She heard of your home from someone who heard from someone else. That's how it works now. A word. A rumor. A hope. You offer her tea. She says, "I lost my son." You nod. "I left everything," she adds. "You didn't leave yourself," you reply. She stays, finds a corner to sleep in, starts cleaning things no one asked her to. You let her. People need to feel useful before they feel safe. One afternoon, Mira finds you staring at the garden. "You're thinking about planting," she says. You nod. "Even if I don't see the harvest." She smiles. "You probably will." But you both know that's not the point. Planting is a kind of faith. You kneel slowly and press seeds into the soil. Your knees complain, your back argues, your hands shake, but the earth receives them anyway. Elspeth watches, then joins you, then Bruna, then Renilde. Soon there are 5 women in the garden, laughing about nothing, dirt under their nails, sunlight on their faces. You sit back, wipe your brow, and say, "Good work." They don't know you're talking about more than the seeds. That night, Mira reads aloud from your notebook. It's not your handwriting anymore, it's hers, but your voice is still there. She reads, "A woman is not a stone. She is the earth. She holds, she grows, she survives, and when she's gone, things still bloom." You say nothing, but your chest feels warm. The fire crackles. The goat bleats. Someone drops a ladle. Laughter follows. This is what you built, and it's still building itself. You sit back, close your eyes, and let the moment hold you. Because you, Alina, are no longer just surviving. You are a garden, still growing, even now. It rains all week. The kind of rain that soaks into everything. Your boots, your bones, your thoughts. The house stays warm, of course, but it creaks more than usual. Water drips from the eaves like the sky's forgotten how to stop crying. Inside, everything smells like damp wool and rosemary. You sit near the hearth, a blanket over your knees, tea in hand. Mira has taken over most of the brewing now, and she's good at it. Too good. You tease her that she's trying to replace you. She just smirks and tells you to drink before it cools. The fire pops. Bruna is arguing with Renilde about where the spoons went. Again, Elsbeth is playing with the goat, who's taken to wearing a stolen scarf like royalty. Edrin is out fetching firewood and probably composing some silent poem about moss or bark. You, Alina, simply watch, and you think. Not about what's next, but about what's been. Your mind drifts, as it does more often now. You remember your first winter in this house, how small it felt, how cold, how loud Tomas snored, how scared you were every moment of doing something wrong, of being wrong. You didn't know then that being scared was normal, that every woman who ever raised a child or baked bread or buried the person they loved most had felt that same tightness in her chest, and still, she rose, like dough, like the sun, like memory. You sip your tea. It tastes like mint and something else, something you can't name, but it comforts you. The notebook is in Mira's lap. She's adding to it. Pages upon pages now, full of tiny handwriting and careful sketches. A whole life recorded, not in grand tales, but in meals and milestones. You ask her, "What will you do with it?" She shrugs. "Keep it going. Maybe copy it again." You nod, because that's how stories survive. Not in libraries, in hands. Later, while the others nap or stitch or peel something, you walk, slowly, to the back of the house. The garden is flooded, the sky still leaking, but the trees beyond it sway like dancers, unbothered. You lean on the doorframe and let the rain mist your face. You feel small, but in the good way, like a part of something. You whisper to no one in particular, "Still here." The rain answers with a hiss on the stones. You return inside and find Mira reading aloud to Elsbeth. They're sitting too close to the fire, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. Bruna has dozed off mid-grumble. Renilde is pretending not to listen. You sit in your chair, you close your eyes, you dream, not of the past, but of the garden in spring. Of laughter, of little hands digging in the dirt, of something growing, always something growing. The rain ends, and with it comes something rare. Stillness. No clatter of buckets, no complaints from the roof, just silence, the kind that feels thick and meaningful. Even the goat seems contemplative. You, Alina, step outside. The ground squelches beneath your feet, but the sky is clear. Patches of blue peek through like old friends dropping by. The trees are dripping, the stream is swollen, and the garden, what's left of it, is somehow not drowned. Mira's raised bed's held. Edrin's channels drained well. You smile, you taught them both, and they did it better. That's the point of teaching, isn't it? You wander past the edge of the garden, past the old path where you used to fetch firewood before Edrin declared you retired. There's a stump there, half sunken into moss. You sit. It's been years since you allowed yourself a full moment to do nothing. Not rest, not chores, not listening. Just nothing. You listen to your own breath. It wheezes a bit now. You laugh. Later, back in the house, there's news. A messenger from the nearby town, mud-splattered, red-faced, arrives asking for you. Specifically, he carries a letter with a seal you recognize immediately. Lysandra, you open it slowly. It's short. Alina, I've done it. The law passed. Women can now inherit titles, land, and most importantly, their own damn stories. I owe you. L. You fold the letter quietly. Mira asks what it says. You hand it to her. She reads, then smiles. She did it. You nod. She says, so did you. You say nothing, because some victories don't roar. They settle into your bones like warmth, like peace. That evening, you gather everyone, Bruna, Renilde, Elsbeth, Mira, even Edrin, and you tell them the story. Not just of Lysandra, but of how it all began. You tell them about the girl who was married off too young, about the babies, the deaths, the cold nights, about the woman who refused to be erased. You don't make yourself a hero, but you don't shrink either. And when you finish, there's no applause, just a new kind of silence, the kind that says, "We heard you, we'll remember." Mira picks up the notebook, she adds a page, she writes, "The law changed today, but we didn't wait for it. We made our own laws in this house long before paper ever caught up." You want to kiss her. Instead, you squeeze her hand. Later that night, you lie in bed, staring at the rafters. You can hear Mira scribbling, Bruna snoring, Elsbeth whispering a story to the goat. The world feels full. You whisper to yourself, "We did it." And for the first time in decades, you sleep without dreaming of what could have been, because now finally what is enough. Spring settles in like a cat, quiet, comfortable, a little smug. The kind of season that doesn't announce itself with fanfare, just gradually takes over until you wake up one day and realize there's green everywhere. The air smells cleaner, the sun stays a bit longer, the mud dries into pathways again, your knees ache less when the weather's warm. That's how you know it's real. You step outside just after sunrise, the way you always do now. Not because you have to, but because it feels right. You're slower these days, but more deliberate. Each step is a decision, each breath a little victory. The garden is waking up. Mira's composting tricks have finally paid off. Everything's richer, darker, more stubbornly alive. Tiny shoots of garlic poke up like curious children. Bruna swears she saw a mouse try to steal a seed, and now she's declared war on all rodents within 10 feet of the pantry. Renilda has started teaching embroidery to the younger girls. You watched them yesterday, faces furrowed with concentration, stabbing needles through cloth with all the grace of baby porcupines. You didn't correct them. You just smiled. Mistakes are part of learning. You, of all people, know that. Elsbeth has taken to naming the bees. She follows them around with a stick and a ledger, muttering things like, "Reginald prefers lavender," and "Marigold has a temper." You don't discourage it. Edrin built her a little shelf by the window for her bee journal. Sometimes life is strange and pointless in the most beautiful ways. You sit on the bench near the door, the one Edrin carved for your birthday 5 years ago, and watch the world roll on without needing your permission. This is what you've always wanted, a world that works even when you rest. And you do rest now, more often. Not out of weakness, but wisdom. You've realized that there's value in sitting, in watching, in allowing others to carry the buckets, stir the pots, shoe the goats. You are still needed, but not as the engine anymore. Now, you are the center. One evening, a cart pulls up just before dusk. 2 women climb down, one old, one younger, both tired in that way you recognize instantly, the look of someone who's held everything together for too long. They don't say much, just ask for a place to sleep. Mira nods before you can speak. Blankets are laid out, soup is reheated, the fire is stoked higher. No one asks questions, because this is what the house is now. It isn't just your story anymore, it's a gathering place. A thread woven through dozens of other stories, some short, some tangled, all real. Later that night, as the fire dies down and the new women doze, Mira sits beside you with a worn letter. It's from Lysandra. Again, she writes of reforms, of progress, of new mothers receiving land rights, of daughters inheriting shops, of schools open to girls. She signs it, still remembering that stew you made. You laugh, because of course she does. Mira asks, "Do you think we'll ever visit her?" You consider it. The journey would be long, your legs wouldn't like it, but the idea of stepping into a world that once exiled you as a guest of honor, there's something delicious about it. "Maybe," you say, "if I can ride in the cart the whole way." Mira grins. "Deal." In the meantime, your world remains here. You still collect wild herbs, though less often now. Edrin walks with you when he can. You talk about simple things, plants, goats, the weather, but sometimes you talk about the future. He's thinking of asking someone to marry him, a sweet-faced girl from the next village, a baker, quiet but funny. You approve. He blushes when he mentions her name. You don't say it, but you know what's coming. Change, the slow shift of roles, of generations, of who sits where at the table, and you welcome it. Because you didn't build this home to stay the same. You built it to last. Later that week, Mira begins copying a new version of the notebook. Not just your stories now, but everyone's. Bruna's pickling disasters, Renilded's secret prayers, Elsbeth's bee theories, Edrin's soft-hearted poems. It's not history written by kings, but it's the truth. One day, someone will read it and understand, this is how we survived. This is what we carried. This is what we made from nothing. And as you sit, tea in hand, sunlight on your knees, you think, this might be your favorite spring yet. Not because it's easier, but because it's shared. Because every flower you see now, someone else planted, and because finally you know, you don't need to be everything. You just need to be here. And you are. The first warm day of true spring arrives like a song you didn't know you missed. No clouds, no wind, just that golden kind of sunlight that spills across the floor and makes everything feel like a beginning. The entire house seems to stretch. You can hear it in the wood, in the walls, in the breath of every woman who opens a window and sighs like she's been holding her lungs hostage all winter. You, Alina, open the front door and don't close it all day. Mira takes the opportunity to scrub everything. Floors, shelves, even the goat, which, to her credit, only fought a little. Bruna hangs every blanket in the sun. Edrin cleans tools while humming, and Elsbeth chases bees like they owe her rent. And you sit beneath the plum tree out back in the chair they built just for you. Thick, sturdy, with arms wide enough for tea, books, and a disapproving glare if necessary. The tree is flowering. You reach up and pull down a single blossom. White, soft, useless really. And somehow that's what makes it beautiful. A reminder that not everything has to serve a purpose to be worth loving. A merchant comes through the village that afternoon. He carries bolts of cloth and stories. You've seen his type before, eyes sharp, tongue sharper, the kind of man who knows how to make women laugh and men suspicious. He offers you a ribbon, blue silk. For the wise woman, he says. You raise an eyebrow. Flattery doesn't work on me, he grins. Does it work on your granddaughter? You blink, then laugh. Hard. Mira hears you and pokes her head out the window. He flirting with you again? You wave him off. Worse. He thinks I'm your grandmother. Mira smirks. Well, you do act ancient. You throw the ribbon at her. She ducks. The merchant leaves with more coins than he should have, but also a stern warning not to overcharge next time. You still have power. Just a quieter kind. That evening, everyone gathers outside for supper. Bread, cheese, stew, honeyed apples from last fall. No special occasion, just the weather, just the ease of being together without needing a reason. Renilde tells a joke that no one understands. Bruna laughs anyway. Elsbeth offers everyone tea and ends up spilling half of it. Edrin teaches the newest girl how to sharpen a knife. Mira watches it all like a satisfied playwright. You look around and think, this is it, not the old it you used to chase, survival, order, approval. This is a different kind of it, the kind you don't recognize until you're already holding it. After supper, Mira sits beside you. I think I'll leave in the summer, she says. You don't flinch. You just ask, where? North, maybe, she says. I heard there's a village where women are starting their own council. You nod. You'll write, you ask, every week, she promises, and I'll send seeds. You don't say much else. There's nothing more to say. She's ready. You're ready. And that readiness, the peace of it, feels like magic. You sit together until the stars appear. No big words, no farewells, just two women, one who stayed, one who's about to go. And both of you know neither of you are alone, because this house, this life, this strange, stubborn garden of yours, it doesn't end when people leave. It spreads, like stories, like roots, like hope. And tonight, hope smells like plum blossoms, fresh bread, and the faintest whisper of freedom on the wind. Mira leaves on a Thursday. There's no ceremony, no grand goodbye, just a packed satchel, a loaf of bread, and a long, quiet hug on the front steps. She doesn't cry. Neither do you. That's not your style. But when she turns the corner out of sight, the bench beside you feels emptier than it ever has. You sit there a while, hands in your lap, eyes on the dirt path she walked down. The same one you once trudged, carrying firewood, buckets, dreams too heavy to name. Funny how paths don't change, but the feet walking them do. The house doesn't stop. Renilde reorganizes the spice jars again. Bruna swears she can feel a storm coming and demands everyone bring the laundry in. Elsbeth, now the unofficial apprentice bee whisperer, talks to her hives like they're children. Edrin takes longer walks. You suspect he's courting. You don't ask. He'll tell you when he's ready. You fill your time with small tasks. sorting seeds, mending shawls, writing bits of memory in the new notebook Mira left you. It has a green cover, smells like fresh pages and responsibility. You didn't expect to feel lonely, but you do. Not in a dramatic way, just a quiet, persistent ache, like a missing tooth or a skipped step. You find yourself turning to speak to Mira, only to remember she's not in the next room. She's out there now, building her own world. And that's exactly what you raised her to do. Still hurts though. One evening, a letter arrives. No seal, just your name scribbled in familiar, looping script. You open it slowly. I found the village. They made me laugh. They made me tea. I told them about you. I'm not lonely, but I miss your bread. Mira, you hold the letter for a long time. That night, you make 2 loaves of bread. You eat one. You wrap the other and send it with a traveling merchant the next morning. You don't need a reply. Just knowing she'll taste something familiar. That's enough. The days stretch out in gold and green. Summer approaches. Your joints protest, but you keep walking to the garden anyway. The plum tree is heavy now. Edrin built a ladder, but you still climb it yourself, just to prove you can. He scolds you. You ignore him. That's your relationship. More women come. Some stay, some move on. A girl named Lida arrives with a sack of carrots and a story she won't tell yet. You give her a bed near the window and a jar of mint tea. She doesn't speak for days. Then she asks how to make soup. You teach her. This is how the rhythm continues, not with fanfare, but with food, healing, and the quiet permission to just exist. Some days you think, this is all I ever wanted. Other days you think, maybe I'll plant another tree. You haven't stopped growing. You're just slower now, more deliberate, more forgiving. You've become what you once searched for. A woman who knows who she is. A house that remembers everything. A name that no longer needs defending, and when the wind shifts, you sit on your bench and smile. Because somewhere out there, Mira is probably planting something. And somewhere in here, so are you. The heat arrives like an uninvited guest, loud, sticky, and in no rush to leave. Summer doesn't sneak in the way spring does. It slams through the doors, kicks off its shoes, and demands lemonade. The house, despite its thick walls and cool stone floors, starts to feel like a clay oven. You move slower. Everyone does. But life goes on. You wake earlier now, before the sun has a chance to turn the garden into a frying pan. You water the plants with careful hands, whispering encouragement to the squash and scolding the stubborn tomatoes. You've always been a little bossy with vegetables. Bruna has taken to sleeping on the floor near the door, claiming it's cooler. Renilde soaks scarves in water and ties them around her neck like war medals. Elsbeth, who seems immune to heat, spends her afternoons sprawled in the grass talking to bees and writing their autobiographies in increasingly dramatic installments. Edrin keeps building things, new stools, new shelves. He says it's busy work, but you know he's nesting, preparing for something. Maybe marriage, maybe just change. You keep to your rhythm. Mornings in the garden, midday tea in the shade, evenings watching the horizon melt into orange and violet, and once a week, a letter from Mira. They always start the same way. Dear Ma, still alive, still stubborn, still don't miss the goat. Then she fills the page with stories, the women she's met, the debates she's had, the bread she's ruined. She signs every letter with, "Tell the house I said hi." You do. You read the letters aloud during supper. Bruna snorts. Renilde nods. Elsbeth cries once, quietly, but you notice. The house listens. The garden grows. One afternoon, a thunderstorm rolls in so fast it feels like a curtain drop. The sky goes from blue to bruise in minutes. You and the others scramble to pull linens off the line, secure shutters, and herd the goat, who is, of course, missing. You find her in the plum tree. Don't ask. After the storm, the world smells different. Clean. Earthy. Like something important just happened. You walk the perimeter of the garden, checking for damage. A few branches snapped. One fence post loosened. Nothing tragic. You stop at the plum tree. Its blossoms are long gone, but the fruit is full, purple heavy. You pick one. You bite. It tastes like memory. Sun, soil, survival. You sit beneath the tree, juice on your fingers, and remember. Not just the hard things, not just the losses. You remember Tomas's terrible singing, Mira's first word, Edrin hiding frogs in his boots, Bruna arriving angry and leaving her rage in a stew pot, Renilde crying over a broken needle, Elsbeth naming a bee Queen Daggerheart. You laugh, because your life, for all its grief, has been rich. Not in gold, in story. That evening, as the sun bleeds across the sky, you pull out the green-covered notebook. Mira's handwriting mixes with yours now, generations layered like quilt patches. You add a page. July, year unknown. Thunder rolled in like it owned the sky. The goat climbed the tree again. Everyone lived. Again. You close the book. The fireflies are out now, blinking their strange language. You sit in the doorway, legs stretched, tea in hand, and watch them. And you think, this is enough, this moment, this house, this breath. Not because everything is perfect, but because you made something that lasts, not despite you, because of you. The days are long now, stretching like lazy cats across the sky, refusing to end until the last possible streak of light gives out. Summer is in full swing, and the house, despite its thick walls, breathes heat from every crack. You move slower, but you don't stop. You rise early when the air is still kind, and tend to the mint, the thyme, the stubborn patch of parsley that never listens to anyone. The earth feels familiar beneath your feet, warm and giving. You've walked this path so many times it might as well carry your footprints in its bones. Inside, the women fan themselves with cutting boards. Bruna has given up on wearing sleeves. Renilde invents new curses every day for flies. Elsbeth, ever the optimist, tries to convince everyone that sunburn is just aggressive freckles. You stay quiet, smiling, sipping cool tea with a sprig of lemon balm. Your knees ache, yes. Your hands tremble a little. But the ache feels earned, like the soreness after dancing. One afternoon, a girl arrives. No name at first, no backstory, just a tired body, scraped knees, and eyes that refuse to meet yours. You give her water, bread, a place to sleep. You don't ask anything, because you remember what it's like to not want to speak, to need space before language, to just need to be safe. She stays. After 3 days, she tells Elsbeth her name is Sira. She likes mint, she hates thunder, she doesn't sleep much. You watch her fold herself into the rhythm of the house like she was always meant to be here. Renilde teaches her how to thread a needle. Bruna teaches her how to yell at goats. Edrin teaches her how to chop kindling without losing a finger. You don't teach her anything. She just sits with you sometimes, in silence, and you let that be enough, because sometimes presence is the best lesson. Meanwhile, Mira's letters continue. She started planting in the northern village, raised beds, wild herbs, even some tomatoes she swears are slightly edible now. She talks of debates, of laughter, of women building something out of old barns and new dreams. She always ends with, "How's the tree?" So you send her a leaf in your next reply. Pressed flat, wrapped in parchment, tucked between words like a secret. The house is quieter these days. Not sad, just settled. Bruna naps more. Elsbeth reads aloud to the bees. Renilde hums lullabies she swears she never learned. Edrin is away for a few days, helping a neighbor with repairs. The air feels still, like the world is holding its breath. You sit beneath the plum tree one evening, notebook in hand. You write, August. Sira arrived, doesn't speak much. That's fine. She peeled 6 potatoes and named each one. I let her. Mira planted tomatoes. Bruna is getting slower, so am I. The heat is heavy, but the tree is generous. I am too. You close the book and lean back. The sun sets behind the hills, slow and deliberate. The sky melts into peach and violet and a gold so soft it makes you ache. You sip your tea. The house creaks. A breeze stirs the herbs by the window. You listen, not for trouble, just for the sound of life continuing. And there it is. Footsteps in the hall, laughter in the garden, a goat bleating like a drunk uncle. You smile, because everything is still here. And so are you. The mornings arrive slower now. Not because the sun takes longer to rise, but because you do. You wake with the light, stretch beneath the weight of a blanket you didn't need, and listen. To the birds, to the kettle beginning to hiss, to the sound of Bruna shuffling down the hallway, muttering about her knees like they're unreliable coworkers. You smile and sit up. Your joints creak like old floorboards, but they still carry you. Down the hallway, through the kitchen, in the cab to your chair by the door, the one where the light hits just right until noon. You settle in, wrap your shawl tight, and breathe. The house has changed again. Sira, now speaking freely, has found her place. She tends the garden with obsessive care. Mira would be proud. Elsbeth has built a small bench near the hives and spends most mornings writing in her journal, legs crossed, bees dancing near her feet like old friends. Renilde is weaving again. Beautiful, practical things, bags, belts, a wildly unnecessary curtain for the outhouse. Bruna, ever defiant, insists on stirring the soup even when her hands shake. You don't stop her, not because she needs to, but because she wants to. And Edrin, he returns one evening covered in dust and good news. The girl he's been visiting has agreed to marry him. Her name is Mel. She bakes, she laughs easily, and she will be joining the house in the fall. You welcome the news without hesitation. Your family, as always, is expanding in strange and delightful ways. That night, you sit with Edrin by the fire. He's quieter than usual. Not nervous, just thoughtful. He asks what marriage was like for you. You tell him the truth, that it was hard, that it hurt, that there were moments of light and long stretches of dark, that you survived it, learned from it, and made something better in the aftermath. He nods. I want to do better, he says. You already are, you reply. The next morning, you write in the notebook. September, Edrin will marry. Bruna forgets names sometimes. Sira sings when she thinks no one hears. I hear. I do less now, but I see more. The world has not changed as fast as we hoped, but inside these walls, everything is different. Later, a traveler stops at the door. She's young, but carries herself like someone who survived storms. She's heard about the house. She asks if she can stay. You say yes, of course. She looks around, wide-eyed. It's quieter than I thought. You grin. Wait until the goat gets inside. She laughs, and just like that, she belongs. In the days that follow, she finds her rhythm, sweeping floors, fetching water, asking questions about everything. One evening, she sits beside you and asks, how long have you lived here? You pause. I stopped counting. Did you build this? You look around. The walls, the warmth, the garden, the girls laughing by the well. Yes, you say. And you mean it, not the structure, but the soul. This house is you, and not just you, all of you. Every woman who came broken, afraid, angry, or silent, everyone who left with more than they arrived with, you made this, and it made you. As the fire crackles, the new girl, her name is Yuna, pulls out a ribbon. It was my mother's, she says, holding it up. You reach out, take it, and tie it around the handle of the front door. A quiet offering, a new thread in the tapestry. And in that moment, you realize you're not just remembering now, you're being remembered. The leaves begin to turn, not all at once, just a few at first, bold flashes of red among the green, like tiny flags announcing change. The wind carries the scent of apples and old wood. The days shorten and the shadows grow longer, stretching across the floor like sleepy cats. You love this time of year. Autumn has always been your favorite, even when it meant extra work. Harvest to haul, herbs to dry, firewood to stack. But now it means something gentler. A season for watching, for handing down, for letting go just a little. Sira picks apples in the morning, humming as she works. She wears Mira's old scarf, the one with the little holes, mended so many times it's more patch than fabric. You don't tell her, you just smile. Yuna is learning to make bread. Bruna insists on supervising, even though she forgets the recipe halfway through and invents the rest. The result is dense, chewy, and slightly magical. No one complains. Elsbeth has created a ritual for the bees, tiny wreaths, whispered prayers, a farewell song for each drone she finds expired. You asked her why once. She just said, everything deserves to be remembered. You didn't argue. Renilde is quieter now. Her hands tremble more and she naps often, but she still insists on lighting the hearth each evening. It's mine, she says. My fire, my task. You nod. You understand. Edrin and Mel have moved into the small room out back. It's cramped, but they're happy. They've started talking about children. Not yet, but someday. You don't say much. You let them dream. That's your role now, protector of dreams. The notebook, thick and worn, sits beside your chair. You haven't written in days, not for lack of stories, but because sometimes watching is enough. But today something calls you to open it. You write, October, apples are sweet this year. Bread is strange but edible. Yuna sings off-key. The air has teeth now, but the house is warm. I'm still here, and so is everything I planted. You close the book. Outside, the garden is fading, colors muting, vines curling in on themselves, preparing to sleep. You walk its edge slowly, hand brushing over dry stalks and brittle leaves, each one a reminder of what was once green and wild and new. Mira's latest letter arrived yesterday. She's well, busier than ever. Her council passed a new law. Women can now own mills without male co-signers. You laughed so hard you nearly dropped your tea. She ends the letter as always, tell the tree I miss it. You go to the plum tree that afternoon. Its branches are nearly bare. A few stubborn leaves cling on, swaying gently. You place your hand on the trunk, fingers against bark that's grown thick and wise with time. "I miss her too," you whisper. Later, Una finds you sitting there. "Is it true," she asks softly, "that you once ran this house alone?" You nod. She sits beside you. "I don't know how you did it." You look at her, smile, and say, "I didn't. Not really. Not alone. The house ran on stories, on stubbornness, on shared spoons and stolen naps, and someone always saying, 'I've got this,' when no one really did." She laughs. You lean back, feel the wind brush your cheeks. "Will I be ready?" she asks. You think. Then answer, "Probably not. But you'll do it anyway. That's how we all start." She nods. And for a long while, you sit in silence, the kind that only autumn understands. The light fades, you rise. Inside, the hearth crackles. Someone stirs a pot. Someone else sings softly, off-key but sweet. And you, Alina, feel something shift. Not an ending, a passing. Not of power, of presence. You're not stepping away, you're stepping aside. So the next story can begin. Winter arrives gently this time. No blizzards, no harsh winds, just a quiet settling. The frost comes first, crisp edges on leaves, silver dust on the window panes. Then the chill seeps in, slow and thoughtful, like an old friend arriving unannounced but expected. The house adjusts, the way it always does. Blankets reappear, herbs are tucked into jars. The goat is reluctantly moved inside again, grumbling like a tired matron. Everyone finds their roles as if guided by invisible thread. And you, Alina, move a little slower. You don't fight it. The truth is, your body has been whispering this to you for some time now, that the days of climbing ladders, kneading dough, and gathering herbs at dawn are behind you. But you have other gifts now. Observation. Memory. The kind of stillness that makes people feel safe just by being near you. You spend your days by the window, watching, listening, sometimes smiling, sometimes just breathing. It's enough. The others take care of things now. Una leads the baking. Bruna, sharp as ever, double-checks the pantry. Elsbeth gives daily weather reports based entirely on bee behavior. Renilda lights the fire every evening, even on days when her hands barely cooperate. Edrin and Mel are planning a spring planting and whispering about building a cradle. They think you don't hear. You hear everything. One morning, as snow begins to fall, thick and slow and soft, Una brings you the notebook. She's added a page. December. Alina woke early today. She drank her tea with both hands. She asked me what I wanted to become. I said, "Like you." She laughed. I meant it. You read it twice, then you add your own words beneath it. You already are. Don't wait for someone to tell you when you're ready. You don't have to become me, you only need to become yourself. And when you do, this house will know. It always knows. That evening, everyone gathers by the hearth, not for any reason, not a holiday or a celebration, just because it's cold and warm light draws people like moths. The fire crackles, someone stirs soup, laughter weaves through the room like embroidery. You sit in your chair, wrapped in the blanket Mira made years ago. It smells faintly of thyme and smoke, the kind of comfort you can't explain, only feel. Una leans against your knee. Elsbeth plays a soft tune on her whistle. Bruna hums along. Renilde snores gently, head resting on a basket of socks. Edrin meets your eyes, and you nod. Everything is where it should be. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to listen better. The house hums, alive, steady, filled with stories that started with you, but will outlast you. The next morning, the sun rises pale and clear. You wake slowly, stretch, stand, and smile, because the house is warm. The tea is hot, and somewhere out there, Mira is smiling too. This story, your story, isn't ending. It's simply being passed on, like a recipe, like a song, like love. The fire has gone quiet now. Just the soft glow remains, flickering gently against the stone walls, painting everything in gold and shadow. The house is still. Outside, snow falls like feathers, slow and soundless, blanketing the earth in something that feels very close to peace. You can almost hear the breath of the house, the slow inhale of warmth, the soft exhale of rest. It holds the echoes of laughter, footsteps, lullabies half sung, and meals half eaten. The past lives here, yes, but so does tomorrow. So does comfort. So does everything you built with your hands, your patience, your refusal to give up when everything said you should. And now, there is nothing left to hold, because the ones who needed you, they're standing tall on their own now. You showed them how, quietly, fiercely, with soup and shelter and stories told by firelight, and that was enough, more than enough. So breathe deeply. Let your shoulders drop. Let your eyes grow heavy. There's no need to go anywhere. No need to fix or carry or even remember right now. Just rest. You did well, you were loved, and everything is exactly where it should be. Now close your eyes, let the garden sleep. Let the wind hum its quiet tune through the trees. Let the night wrap around you like the softest blanket. Let go. You're safe here. You're home. End of script. Sleep well.